Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Fantasy Football Post. I'm Sid Rosenberg for OpenSports.com and, of course, the National Football Post. Let's help you get your lineup set for week number 7 of the NFL season. Here he is, my main man, Joe Fortenbaugh, the great fantasy expert at NFPost.com. Joe, how are you, pal?
Doing great today, Sid. How's everything going with you?
Going great as well. Big weekend of football coming up. Let's get right to it. Let's start right out of the gate with a little stardom sit-em. Some interesting names getting benched this week, Joe. After pumping up Rashard Mendenhall for a few weeks, you're sending him to the sideline this Sunday against the Vikings.
Vikings are a very, very good run defense. Very stout up front with the Williams wall, Jared Allen and Ray Edwards at defensive end coming off the outside. This is a defense that has struggled against the pass this season, but they are outstanding against the run. Couple that with the fact that Pittsburgh has a average offensive line at this point. They're going to have trouble getting a surge up front. Mendenhall, he's going to see some carries. He's going to see a good share, but it's going to be very difficult to pick up the yards this week.
All right, Joe, also right in the pine are Carolina's Steve Smith, who declared himself a non-factor after last week's win in Tampa, and the big man, Brandon Jacobs of the New York Football Giants.
As far as Steve Smith is concerned, he's playing Buffalo this weekend. Buffalo's run defense is absolutely terrible. Between D'Angelo Williams and Jonathan Stewart, the second-year back, they should be able to pound the ball through the tackles. They should be able to pick up a lot of yards on the ground. I don't expect Jake Delhomme to have, any more than 20 passes in this game. Carolina should be able to handle that game on the ground. As far as Brandon Jacobs is concerned, Arizona is currently the #1 ranked run defense in the country. Now, the issue with that is a lot of teams are forced to play catch-up against them. They have to throw late, so they don't run the ball as much. So it is a little skewed. However, Jacobs has struggled this year, under 4 yards a carry. Ahmed Bradshaw is seeing more carries every week. He's been playing outstanding football. This is not a great week for Brandon Jacobs in the starting lineup.
Fair enough. Now, Joe, while you're sitting Mendenhall and Jacobs because of the matchups, you're still recommending quarterback Ben Roethlisberger and Ahmed Bradshaw. What gives here, Joe?
Of course, the Minnesota, in Roethlisberger's case, the Minnesota pass defense has struggled this year. They're in the bottom 10 in the league. In addition, it looks like all-stud cornerback Antoine Winfield might not play this weekend. They're going to have some trouble with Hines Ward, Santonio Holmes, and Heath Miller should have a real nice week, too. Minnesota plays a cover 2 defense that can be exploited by the tight end position if Miller gets down the seam, and Roethlisberger's loved to throw it to him this year. Pittsburgh is throwing much more than they ever have in the past. Roethlisberger's numbers are through the roof. He is a great start this weekend. Ahmed Bradshaw should be a tough week, but he is the perfect back to play against Arizona. Steve Slayton had a nice day, combination passing, running for just under 100 yards. Look for Bradshaw to do the same.
All right, Joe, it's fantasy pick'em time. We love this part, Joe. I'm going to give you 2 players. You tell me who's going to have the better fantasy day. 3 out of 5 last week, so that's 7 for 10 the last 2 weeks. That's 70%. That's pretty damn good, Joe. Matt Castle, quarterback for the Chiefs versus the Chargers, or Eagles quarterback Donovan McNabb versus the Washington Redskins?
This is a good one because Castle should be able to put up some numbers against that San Diego defense. However, I'm still going to go with McNabb. They got a lot to prove coming off that terrible loss at Oakland last week. They're going to take to the air. They're going to have a good game. I'm going to go Donovan McNabb.
Joe, Bengal running back Cedric Benson versus his old team, the Bears, or Panther running back Jonathan Stewart versus Buffalo?
Let's go Jay Stu this week. I know everyone's real high on Benson, but this is a tough front 4 from Chicago. They've played the run very well this year. Jonathan Stewart should have a very explosive game against one of the worst run defenses in the league. I like Jonathan Stewart.
Back in San Francisco, Frank Gore after the injury versus the Texans, or Packers running back Ryan Grant versus the lowly Browns?
Grant should have a nice week, but it seems like every time I say that, or anyone else says it for that matter, he just doesn't get enough touches and he just doesn't produce with them. I'm going to go with Frank Gore. He's a great running back, can make plays in both phases of the offense. Houston's defense has stepped up, but they are going to need to lean on Frank Gore this week to win this game. Let's go with Frank Gore.
Bengals wide receiver Chad Ochocinco versus the Bears. Last time we saw Miles Austin, he was setting records for the Cowboys against the Chiefs. He's got the Falcons this weekend. Ochocinco or Austin?
Let's go with Austin, and the main reason for that is, and I think Ochocinco is going to have a very nice day. He's been having a great season. Austin is going to be able to exploit a secondary against Atlanta that lost Brian Williams earlier this week. They're young, they're experienced. None of the starters are around, essentially. They can be exploited. Dallas is at home. Plus, this game looks like it could turn into a shootout. Miles Austin should have another very good week.
All right, finally, Joe, Wes Welker of the Patriots versus the winless Buccaneers in London, or Roddy White of Atlanta versus the Dallas Cowboys?
Wow, great matchup. Both players should have an excellent game. Let's go with Wes Welker on this one. Welker's going to see a lot of passes. He's going to see a lot of targets. He should get his typical 6 to 10 receptions. Tampa's pass defense has just been abysmal this year. Everyone's been lighting them up. Let's go with Wes Welker.
Joe, as always, spectacular job, great information. We love having you on. We'll see you again next Tuesday for more fantasy coverage right here on the Fantasy Football Post. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the football.
You too, Sid. Thanks a lot.
Take care. Remember, you can also follow Joe on Twitter at Joe Fortenbaugh. That's Baugh for more great fantasy updates. Plus, his writing is great every day at nfpost.com. For my friend Joe Fortenbaugh, I'm Sid Rosenberg. And as always, everybody, enjoy the football.